is time for a very late April reading wrap-up for 2025. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is, like I said, a late reading wrap-up for April of 2025. I'm not even sure I remember half of these books as we go through them, so we'll learn together what I thought about them and if they were just like good vibes or if I actually remember details, but we'll see as we go through. Normally I would put like a book haul and like a budget update, so I'll do a budget update for April, but I will not do the book haul because I have enough between like digitally purchased books, ARCs being sent to me, and also I went shopping a bunch in May because my in-laws were here and my father-in-law is also a bookworm, and I bought enough to do a book haul in the next coming weeks, so I will do all that then. The month of April was interesting. We'll do a quick budget check-in. So let's see how much I spent in the month of April. I had a lot of ARC sent to me, which was really lovely. $118.15. Did I go over budget? Yes. Are we surprised? No. I have no idea what my spending is going to look like at the end of the financial year. We've got 3 months to go, and already in May I think I've spent about $350 just because people were here. I was adventuring and bookstores were presented to me, so I went into them. I will also, before we jump into the actual books, just apologize for the audio in the next few videos. I got a new phone, and I film my phone because I can't be fucked getting cameras, and this is a hobby for me. It's not like I don't want to spend thousands of dollars on more equipment when I have, a $2,000, $3,000 phone to do the job. I forgot that the next update of the iPhone from the one I had has a different cable. So my microphone now no longer works. I need to find a new microphone. I will not be doing that in the next 2 to 3 days, which is when these videos need to come out. So I apologize, you're going to hear some whirring from the computer because it is a very old laptop, and that is the next thing to get upgraded as we go through. So if you hear whirring, we're not about to take off. It is in fact just a very old laptop that is trying its darndest to get us through. Jumping into the reads for the month of April, I finished off an alpha read, so we'll do that first. I can't give too much away, but it was a 350,000 word alpha read. I had part 1, I believe, in March, and I finished off part 2, which was about 150 to 160,000 words in April. That was quite involved because it was a book 3, and there was a lot of continuity to keep up to date with and make sure I was doing the best I could for that. So that took a lot of brain power, but that is now finished and sent back to the author. And I also read a beta read called Wolves of Warford, which is going to be a fantasy debut from an author. And this one had really good bones. Again, I can't give too much away because I haven't asked permission to speak about it, so I can't give details away. But the story and the plot elements were quite enjoyable, and I gave some notes back on character work and things like that. So I'm hoping that this one also sees success in the light of day when it comes through, but I had a good time with that one as well. I tend to have a pretty good time with the things that I'm alpha and beta reading. So those were the 2 things that I finished off and then read in April, and then everything else I sort of started but didn't finish until May, so you'll have to wait for that wrap up. The first thing that it says I finished in the month of April was Kavithri. This is by Aman J. Beatty, and I had a good time with this one. I really enjoyed the main character, Kavithri. Sorry, I pronounced it incorrectly the first time. She is an underdog, and she is not afraid to fight with blood if that's what the cost is. I'm grappling at details here. Kavithri is a Temu. Her people have been just shat on for many years because of their berserker rage, and they were utilized in the war, and now they just look down upon as the lowest of the low. This is a very dirty and grungy city, and Kavithri basically has to rise up against the ranks. She miraculously ends up, and I don't want to give too much away, it's a debut. This happens very, very early in the book, so mild spoilers, ends up saving a gentleman and then goes in with him to try and be a fighter. I can't remember for the life of me what the entity was called, and ends up in the midst of a revolution for her and her people. I really like this. This is a fresh voice, Middle Eastern inspired progression fantasy, which is not something I've read before. Progression fantasy I have, and I haven't read too much Indian or Middle Eastern inspired fantasy, but I'd love to read more of it. I've read Gunmetal Gods, and I enjoyed that, and I've got Sons of Darkness up there to read, and I really enjoyed this particular flavour. What I really liked about Kavithri is the world feels so real. It was so vivid, and it was grungy, it was dark. This is an underdog character who just gets beaten down and does not let it keep her down. I've heard this described as, if you like the Poppy War, then you might like this. I haven't read the Poppy War, I have it, but I haven't read it, but I definitely really liked Kavithri, and I have the sequel ready to go, which I think is City of Jackals, if I'm correct. That is the first thing that I apparently completed in the month of April for 2025. Next up, we have Dragon Your Bones by Tatiana Obi. This is the sequel to this is the second book in the Forging of Age duology and the sequel to Bones to the Wind. And this one centers around the events, sort of the Grand Cull and what's happening there. So in the first book, again, I can't give too much away. We have a bunch of kids. This is classed as new adults, so they're sort of older teenagers who go out into the Grand Cull. They go out on this big adventure. They need to hunt and bring food back to the societies. And it sort of follows on from the end of book one. We haven't finished the Grand Cull in the end of book one, but we finish it and then we see the consequences and the follow-up to that and what that means for the political landscape and also for our characters. And it's a very different world than being out there and being out on the hunt. And I think we get a great deal of character depth in Dragon Your Bones. Obi has a writing style which is absolutely mesmerizing, even if you don't gravitate towards a new adult or even YA, and I don't personally. I was so sucked in to these characters and this world. So I am an Obi stan. It's an auto-buy author for me, and I can't wait to see what she does next. I believe there is, I don't know if it's a sequel series, but there is a project that the author is working on now which somehow ties in to the Forging of Age duology, and I don't know whether it's the same characters or the same world, but this is a world that I very much love, and potentially in terms of favorite worlds, it's pretty high up there. What I love about the author herself, and I think I mentioned this before, is she is a world building stan. She loves to build cultures and worlds, and you can see that off the page. It is so vivid. The next one that I read or listened to was The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones to finish off the Angel of Indian Lake trilogy. Had an okay time with it. I think I mentioned before, I don't love slashers, so sometimes these type of slasher horror books will be lost on me. Very few I've gone, that was the best thing that's ever written. This was, I don't know, maybe 3.5 star. I'd have to check what I gave it. And it was a satisfying conclusion to Jade Daniels' story, and I like her as a character. So even though some of the references were lost on me, I still enjoyed Jade as we went through the book. But I don't know, it's not super memorable for me. I'm going to be unhauling the trilogy because I'm not going to read it again. I'm glad I read it. I didn't have a terrible time with it at all, but it was a thing that I read, and now I can move on. And I think I will try another Stephen Graham Jones at some point if there is ever one that isn't a slasher, but from the acknowledgement sections at the end and when he does his... He does it's not... It's like an author's note. They're the words I'm thinking of. I've just worked a 10-hour day. I'm so sorry, my brain is frazzled. The author's note is always really interesting to listen to, and from those notes, it sounds like he lives and breathes the slasher subgenre of horror. So I don't know if anyone has read any other Stephen Graham Jones and you think that it's worth giving a go, because I quite like the author's prose and writing style and the ethereal voice. Let me know and I'll pick it up. The next one that I read was a novella. This is Dance With Me by Olivia J. Elliott. I will actually be interviewing, or would have interviewed her, on the channel by the time that this comes out. And this was delightful. This is a novelization of a short interactive story that she has put out on her Unearthed Stories. Wow, I can speak. It's been a long ass day. And it is a very thematically heavy novella looking at things like PTSD, survival, trauma, and how we self-talk and sometimes needing to accept help. And it follows a ballerina whose purpose is to dance, and she puts everything that she has into dancing, and also looking at characters and I guess the abuse aspect of the thematics in this particular story, who grow less and less fond of the ballerina over time. There's a little boy in the story who comes and watches her dance, and he becomes less and less interested, and she ventures out to the bookcase, throughout the bookcase, and she finds other characters. All of the interactions with these other characters are so beautiful, and I don't want to give too much away because it is something that I would want readers to experience themselves for like the first time. I think it was just beautiful, and yeah, I can't wait to chat to her, or would have chatted to her prior to this coming out next week. And the next one that I have here is The Crimson Fire by Abel Montero. This is an Italian translation. No, reverse that. This is an English translation of the Italian book that he has released over in Italy, and I really enjoyed this one. So this was a epic fantasy. Started off a little bit slow for me to begin with, but once we got into, I would say, the main POVs for the story, being Shady, sorry about the pronunciation, and Darjan, so who is her blade, I want to say, but like a bodyguard character. They really sort of dig into these political machinations that are happening deeper in the world. There was a couple of other characters as well. So we have Eshfen, who we don't see a great deal of. It starts with Eshfen, and there's like a heist situation, and we get some sort of faith aspects, and you know, one person is right and one person is wrong in this person's mind. And then we move on to Shady and Darjan, who have the bigger political aspect of the story. And we also have Ensign Dick, who uncovers more plot lines. So if you like stories that have multiple POVs that sort of build and sort of have separate stories that then come together to build something bigger and promises a bigger book 2 and then series beyond, you'll probably enjoy this one. It definitely felt like a book 1, which is putting those bricks in place to then have a wider and bigger world. I really quite like the magic in this one, and like I said, Shady and Darjan. And the last thing that I read completed was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's my first Jane Austen. It certainly won't be my last. This was absolutely brilliant. I loved it. I loved the prose. I loved the witty banter that the author has. So Jane Austen, it was satire, but some of these things are so relevant today. And that's what I love about classics, is that the themes that we are looking in here, and it is misogyny, the need to have a wife and to put your worth in relationships, the way that women treat each other, the way that we talk about, you know, marriages sometimes is the be-all and end-all. These themes transcend time. They are still relevant today. They are still conversations that I hear people around me having today. They are conversations that I have had with other people. I loved the witty banter, the poking fun at while talking about serious concepts. And my favourite part of this whole book has to be the dynamic between Mr. and Mrs. Bennet. I thought they were delightful. I would follow a whole story just based on them arguing with each other. Because Mrs. Bennet would be like, just ridiculous. And then Mr. Bennet would be the voice of reason, and it just warmed my soul. I had such a good time with this book. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I feel like even if you haven't read the books or seen an adaptation, you sort of know this epic love story of Pride and Prejudice. I can't wait to read more Jane Austen. It was absolutely delightful. So those were the books that I read in April. I'm so sorry, my memory was very vague. I am quite tired, so this was also quite ranty. But what did you read in the month of April? Or, look, let's face it, at this point, what did you read in the month of May? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like the content, give one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.